folks. Welcome to Battle for Truth, God's Way. I'm your gracious host and handsome benefactor, Max Gomez. It's so thrilling to be with you again, just to have the opportunity of bringing you another stirring commentary that is sure to get your blood boiling, make you feel offended, and get you thinking about what you should do next about your mediocrity and malaise. It's my pleasure to be the one to stir the juices of reason and critical thinking in your mind. Be sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you like the videos. We're going to try to have some fun and laughs here at everybody else's expense while we're teaching, and the reason for that is that I think we need to know the truth and be able to enjoy some sarcasm at the same time. That's just me. Anyway, today is Sunday. It could be any Sunday of the year. And you may be wondering why I'm not at church. Well, I want to share something with you that really grieves me. Grieves my heart and my mind, because when you're grieved about the church and you have some misgivings about going to church, that is an ominous feeling for me. There's a shadowing gloom that surrounds these particular thoughts for me in particular, and I'm saddened by even the idea of having these thoughts about the church. Church is supposed to be the place where you go to be edified, to be lifted up, to be encouraged, recharged, instructed, reproved, and corrected. A place you go to kneel in prayer and to ask forgiveness and to rededicate yourself when you've been away. It's a place where you expect that the pastor knows more and is more than you know and than what you are, because you need a standard to look at. You need a system of measurement that is reliable. Some might say that I expect too much, because after all, pastors are men. But I don't think it's too much to ask God's man to be what God ordained him to be. We don't want to put preachers on a pedestal, but we also don't want them to be mediocre. We want them to have a vision, courage, and a sense of urgency about soul winning. And most of all, I want to be able to say that my pastor knows the book, and he is always working to improve his people and his ministry. I want to say that my pastor knows what it means to be a shepherd. If you look at a shepherd, you'll notice that he carries a staff. In all those movies that you've seen, all those Christian movies you've seen, you see a shepherd strolling along his sheep, and he's carrying a staff, which at times a staff is also referred to a rod. When David said, "Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me," he was not only referring to the staff of leadership on which the sheep rely, but also the rod of correction. David found comfort in the assurance and the presence of both. Proverbs 27:23 admonishes the shepherd when he says, "Be thou diligent to know the state of thy flocks, and look well to your herds." Jesus himself said of the shepherd in John 10:11, "I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep." When David was a young shepherd, he fought off and killed a lion and a bear to protect his sheep. This is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. Backslidden and lazy preachers that are ruining the church and the testimony of Christ in America. It's a near and dear to my heart because we're in more trouble in America today than we've ever been. We once fought off a foreign enemy that we recognized, and this enemy made his intention known. He was trying to enslave us. Today, we're again fighting an enemy. We're fighting a domestic enemy, but we haven't recognized him for the treacherous and wicked enemy that he is, because this enemy is our old man. He is our flesh, and we need to divest ourselves of his beguilement. We're going to talk about a man today who not only provided a standard for his people, but also for his king. And the reason that he could preach to the king was because he knew his duty to his God. He knew what he had to do, and he didn't shirk his responsibility to his people and to his king. He was a good shepherd. Let's see the problem that occurred first. In 2 Samuel chapter 11 and verse 1, we find this really interesting verse. It says, "And it came to pass, after the year was expired, at the time when kings go forth to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him, and all Israel. And they destroyed the children of Ammon, and besieged Rabbah. But David tarried still in Jerusalem." Do you know what is wrong with that last phrase in that verse? Let's read the whole thing again to see if we get the implications of the verse. "And it came to pass, after the year was expired, at the time when kings go forth to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him, and all Israel, and they destroyed the children of Ammon, and besieged Rabbah. But David tarried still in Jerusalem." Did you get that? No? All right, let me explain it to you. During these early times in history, when men were men, and these leaders possessed unquestionable courage and bravado, they led their troops from the front, not from the rear. Today, most of the generals that are on the battlefield, they lead from the rear. The battle philosophy today is for field commanders, brigadier and up, not to adventure themselves in forward areas of battle, because leadership is much too valuable, and they shouldn't risk their lives out there near the front. We have a bunch of effeminate wussies in uniform delegating authority, but they are absent at the front. During the American Civil War, North and South combined lost 124 general officers in the field. And the reason for that was that they led their men in the heat of battle from the front. They led by example. I was in the 10th Mountain Division at Fort Drum, New York, and our motto was, "Lead by example." So what we're reading in 2 Samuel 11:1 is that after all his battle experience and demonstrations of courage and all the battle scars he sustained prior to and after becoming king, David decided that he had had enough of battle. He was going to delegate the job to his senior military commander, Joab. David just wanted to kick back and do the minimum. That's what our leaders are like today. We could say that about our national leaders, but why talk about them when we can talk about the guys who are really causing the problems in this country by their absence and their silence? You know, Martin Luther King Jr. said something once that really strikes at the core of the problems in America today. He said, "In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." That's getting to be a major problem in America because nobody is willing to put his name and reputation on the line anymore. Nobody wants to be canceled, persecuted, or appear judgmental or self-righteous. Nobody wants to be accused of being intolerant, homophobic, transphobic, racist, misogynist, or anti-immigrant. As a consequence, people who disagree with all the perverted and criminal behavior of our national leaders are as silent as the grave because they're scared. But it goes deeper than that, folks. It's not just the simple excuses anymore. Preachers today have lost their passion for Christ, their vision, their zeal, their sense of urgency, and their courage. As a consequence, our nation is existing in a moral vacuum. We will continue this lesson in the next video. This is Battle for Truth, God's Way. I'm your host, Max Gomez. See you soon.